supervisor. There will be no comments. There will be anything. It will just be me addressing you guys to tell you what's going on in Thornton Township.
Why did we address you?
In our CBA, that's our collective bargaining agreement, that's our union contract. So it comes with the seat. That's what people are not saying. I didn't make this up. I didn't just create this and say, I want security.
Tiffany Henyard's name has recently been making waves, though not for the reasons she likely intended. The investigation into her suspicious actions as Dalton's mayor is progressively unraveling, and now her closest allies are beginning to turn on her. It seems that even her baby daddy is no longer standing by her side, with reports indicating that he's been taken into custody and is already divulging information that could have severe consequences for her. The authorities are clearly closing in, and those she once trusted are now collaborating with law enforcement. To understand how things escalated to this point, let's take a closer look. Tiffany's newfound fame wasn't just about wielding political power or achieving public recognition. She deliberately cultivated an image of invincibility, surrounding herself with individuals who were just as morally questionable as she was. In doing so, she created a network of scapegoats, people she expected to take the fall for her illegal actions. However, as the investigation into her activities gained momentum, Tiffany attempted to keep a low profile. She had managed to avoid detection for a time, but now, with all eyes on her, she could no longer stay under the radar. However, Tiffany's attempt to lay low didn't go as planned. While she tried to stay out of the public eye, the FBI was already hot on her trail. Reports suggest that Tiffany believed she could ride out the storm until things died down, only to realize that those around her weren't as faithful as she had assumed. One by one, the people who were meant to protect her started to betray her, leaving her with no place to hide. The most surprising twist? Her own boyfriend didn't hesitate to work with authorities. Kamal Woods, Tiffany's partner, has been pulled into the investigation. Kamal had a hand in some of Tiffany's business dealings, and it turns out he's far from the angel he was made out to be. Kamal isn't just Tiffany's life partner, he's also a significant figure in her business operations. In fact, he was appointed as the director of her cancer foundation, a decision that raised some serious questions. The foundation, which was supposedly set up to assist breast cancer patients, may have been more of a public relations move than a genuine charity, and this is where things start to look really suspicious. On the very first day the foundation became official, it received a hefty $110,000 donation. The issue? The people of Dalton never approved this donation, and Tiffany reportedly decided to divert the funds for her own personal projects. To make matters worse, she allegedly used taxpayer money to fund a trip outside Dalton to promote the foundation. Essentially, she was using public resources to push her own agenda. But the dubious activities didn't stop there. Tiffany continued to funnel taxpayer dollars into the foundation, and even her staff, including Kamal, were allegedly paid through these public funds. Kamal wasn't just collecting a paycheck from Tiffany's Shady Foundation. He also secured a lucrative side job at Thornton Township, where he was reportedly making over $100,000, an income most Dalton residents could only dream of. This arrangement seemed perfect until the feds showed up with a subpoena demanding records of Tiffany's business activities. And unsurprisingly, Kamal was named in that subpoena as well. The investigation took a new turn when Tiffany was served with two subpoenas, one focusing on her private businesses, including a restaurant, and a property management company. These ventures, it seems, were just as questionable as her other activities. Tiffany faced accusations of cutting corners and doing whatever it took to fill her pockets, often at the expense of her clients. A glaring example of this surfaced in 2019 when one of her tenants lost their home due to a mold-infested building that was leaking. This incident served as a clear sign that Tiffany's business practices were far from ethical. As the investigation into her actions progresses, it's evident that her world is closing in. Her former allies are turning against her, and the very people she trusted to protect her are now helping to expose her fraudulent dealings. Tiffany may have once believed she was invincible, but now it seems the authorities are tightening the noose, and her empire is falling apart. The bigger question now is how far this investigation will go and just how much more will be uncovered about Tiffany Henyard's criminal activities. For Tiffany, things aren't looking good. Her baby daddy, once seen as a loyal figure in her life, is now cooperating with the feds, and his testimony could be pivotal in bringing her down. As the investigation moves forward, the truth about Tiffany's illicit dealings is becoming more apparent, and with each passing day, it seems like she's inching closer to facing the consequences of her actions. Tiffany Henyard's story serves as a stark reminder that the people around you can either lift you up or bring you down. In Tiffany's case, those she trusted to cover her tracks are now the very ones leading authorities straight to her. It's a classic example of someone believing they're untouchable, only to realize that their own inner circle is the one that ultimately brings them down. The next chapter of this saga promises to be even more intense, as Tiffany's fate hangs in the balance.
Where the roof of the ceiling is damaged, and then it leaks going into my kitchen, and the windowsill leaked in my daughter's room.
Except they weren't. Enter activist David Lowry, who called Dalton directly. Suddenly, the house deemed livable on September 3rd became unfit for occupancy on October 15th. Lowry's theory?
The trustee used her power.
The FBI needed to uncover the full extent of what was really going on with Tiffany's businesses, so they requested all records from her political fund and charity foundation. But that was just scratching the surface. As the investigation progressed, more individuals began coming forward, exposing Tiffany for her actions. To be honest, she should have seen it coming, especially since her administration had been under fire from the very beginning. Just 6 months after becoming the supervisor of Thornton Township, Tiffany was already facing pushback from her so-called dream team, the very people she had handpicked. Tiana Beller and Jason House were elected as trustees, and Allison Key became the village clerk. However, what was meant to be a dream team quickly turned into a nightmare. Team members started calling out Tiffany for her shady behavior. Tiffany had expected them to be compliant, her puppets, so she could run the township however she saw fit. But they weren't having it. Just 6 months into her tenure, they began accusing her of mismanaging funds and running an operation that lacked transparency. By 2022, they had had enough. Tiffany refused to take accountability, and the trustees teamed up with the village board to sue her over significant conflicts of interest. Tiffany, however, fought back, accusing them of stirring trouble and trying to undermine her efforts to improve Dalton.
And it's my heart that you are up here at this special meeting and not downstairs where we have big bingo and the staff. I don't see the staff talking. I think that's a very important deal to that. So do y'all want to amend that and add staff fees? I don't see them in none of these bills. And then we don't never do agenda like this. So all this fluff you selling to the public is crap.
Tiffany's tactics took a darker turn when she started locking the trustees out of their offices, likely hoping to intimidate them. However, the trustees were undeterred. They were resolute in their mission to remove Tiffany from power, so they began holding meetings without her. You might think they were going too far, but the reality was that Tiffany wasn't fulfilling her responsibilities. While Dalton faced serious issues, like deteriorating roads, rundown homes, and a struggling police force, Tiffany continued to waste the town's resources on frivolous expenditures. She used public funds for extravagant billboards, first-class flights, stays at high-end hotels like the Four Seasons, DJs, photographers, and even hired an entire security team. The list of unnecessary expenses seemed never-ending. Before Tiffany became mayor, Dalton was a town that prioritized community, unity, and working for the well-being of its people. But under Tiffany's leadership, those values quickly eroded. Under Tiffany's leadership, everything shifted. Now, it seemed like everything revolved around her. Any event that didn't directly promote her or enhance her image was abruptly canceled. For example, there was a traditional community event hosted by locals aimed at bringing the town together. This year, it was set to go ahead as usual, but Tiffany refused to approve the permit to use the public park. Why? Because she didn't want it to compete with her own event, which was scheduled just a few miles away. To ensure no one could attend the community gathering, she even took the extreme measure of blocking access to the park by placing large, cement blocks at the entrance. Tiffany's actions made it clear that her priorities had shifted. It was no longer about the well-being of Dalton, but about promoting her own image, regardless of the cost.
Darren Bosley has organized an annual car show here in the parking lot of Needles Park in Dalton. After paying $1,000 to the park district for this year's permit, Bosley got an unexpected call last Wednesday from Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard's top assistant,
saying that the show would be shut down, but if I move my event to her location on Greenwood, that I will be fine.
Did you take that as a threat?
Yes, I took that as bullying.
Sure enough, when Bosley showed up at the park Saturday morning, he found that giant concrete barricades had been placed at the entrance, and Dalton police were threatening to tow any cars that parked there.
We talking about two different.
Can you believe that? Canceling a community event just to host her own is absolutely insane. But as outrageous as that sounds, it's still nothing compared to some of the other things Tiffany has done. So, it's not all that surprising that the trustees and even her own inner circle started turning against her. One trustee, Carmen Carlisle, recently blew the whistle on Tiffany, revealing the truth behind the scenes. Carmen explained that for the past 2 years, Tiffany had been manipulating employees, vendors, and residents, using her position to expand her influence while maintaining a false image of success, an image funded by the hard-working taxpayers of Thornton Township and Dalton. Tiffany showed no remorse or accountability for her actions against both employees and taxpayers. But Tiffany isn't backing down without a fight. She insists that everything she did was in the best interest of Dalton, and claims that if anyone should take the fall, it's her right-hand man, Keith Freeman. And as if things weren't already complicated enough, Keith is facing fraud charges in a separate FBI investigation.
We will have questions.
Mayor Henyard is in a situation where she feels like she's under attack, because she is.
Bo Brindley is Henyard's criminal defense attorney, hired after the FBI served subpoenas on the village and township earlier this year. He blames Henyard's top aide, Keith Freeman.
Keith Freeman made the decision on how these funds are being used. Keith Freeman is going on these trips. You understand, this is a new mayor. This is someone that is new to this job.
But she never thought, hey, I shouldn't fly first class. I shouldn't stay at the Four Seasons.
If there was a problem with any of that, if that's not how you're supposed to do it, she relied on Freeman to tell her. He's telling her this is how we do things. The mayor didn't spend any of this money. Keith Freeman made decisions and reported to the mayor, this is what we're doing. The mayor trusted him until...
As wild as all of this sounds, there are still some people in Dalton who are standing by Tiffany. They believe she's made politics more relatable and even fun, arguing that she's not as bad as the media is making her out to be. Every time Tiffany posts on social media, it goes viral. At this point, she's practically a celebrity. But that doesn't mean people aren't talking behind the scenes. One person commented, "If this woman doesn't end up in prison for everything, she's done right in front of everyone calling her out. There's no justice left in Illinois." Another person remarked, "The fact that this investigation is still ongoing is ridiculous. She should already be in prison." Now, I want to hear from you. Are you Team Tiffany? Or do you think she needs a long-term adult timeout? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below, and don't forget to click here to check out this other very messy video.